Hello everyone, and welcome to the Hoop Hysteria channel. After the Thunder's decisive sweep of the Timberwolves, they've already locked up their spot in the NBA Finals. Most of the praise has rightfully gone to SGA for winning Western Conference Finals MVP, or to Jalen Williams for his numerous clutch shots. However, the outstanding performance of the team's core big man, Chet Holmgren, cannot be overlooked. In Game 4, he delivered 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 blocks, shooting 2-for-4 from three-point range. Offensively, he capitalized on open looks, and defensively, he remained an anchor under the basket. Looking at his entire playoff run, we find that even with less playing time and fewer shot attempts than last season, Chet has produced more points and demonstrated greater consistency. It's clear he has truly improved. When they first entered the league, he and Wembanyama were dubbed the Chopstick Brothers or Unicorns, and many thought Chet would develop in the mold of Kevin Durant. In reality, unlike KD and Wembanyama, who favor an outside game, Chet leans more towards a traditional big man style, albeit one who can stretch the floor with his three-point shooting. It seems that by moving away from trying to be the next KD, Chet has actually become stronger. So, just how consistent has Chet been in this year's playoffs? And what does he mean to the Thunder right now? Today, let's talk about the clearly improved Chet Holmgren. First, let's look at Game 4 against the Timberwolves, one of Chet's best playoff performances this season. He scored an efficient 9 points in the fourth quarter on 4 of 5 shooting, finishing with 21 points for the game and fulfilling his role as the team's third scoring option. On one Thunder offensive possession, with the Timberwolves defense focused on Jalen Williams who had the ball, Chet was left open on the right wing. He didn't hesitate, sinking a 25-foot three-pointer to extend the lead back to 2 possessions. Many plays were similar, with SGA being the one drawing the double team and dishing out the assist instead of Jalen Williams. Throughout the fourth quarter of Game 4, the Thunder repeatedly saw their lead shrink to a single possession against the Timberwolves. But the young trio stepped up, each hitting crucial shots, Chet included. Defensively, Chet was once again a pillar of strength. The Thunder had only 5 blocks in the entire game, and Chet contributed 3 of them. And this wasn't the first time Chet scored 20 points in a single playoff game this season. He had 24 points in Game 3 against the Grizzlies, and 22 points in Game 2 against the Timberwolves. This brings us to Chet's biggest improvement in this year's playoffs, his offensive consistency. Statistically, last postseason, Chet averaged 15.6 points and 7.2 rebounds in 34.5 minutes per game on 11.9 shot attempts. This season, despite his playing time decreasing to 29.5 minutes and his shot attempts slightly down to 11.8 per game, he has delivered 16.1 points and 8.7 rebounds. What's particularly noteworthy here is his stability from beyond the arc. Last season, he shot only 26.0% from 3, making an average of 1.3 threes per game, hardly living up to the label of a floor spacer. This season, his three-point production stands at 32.4% on 1.5 made threes per game. Considering the Thunder have a number of streaky shooters, and that outside shooting tends to dip in the playoffs, Chet's performance has significantly alleviated the offensive pressure on SGA and Jalen Williams. Furthermore, last postseason, Chet had only 5 games with 15 points in 10 appearances, with a low of 6 points in 1 game. This season, he's had 9 games with 15 points in 15 appearances, with a low of 8 points. This comparison is quite telling. Specifically, Chet's three-point shot and his play through contact are worth mentioning. His shooting form involves a hip hinge, rising onto the balls of his feet, and a follow-through with his elbow extended textbook mechanics. When attacking the basket, despite his lanky beanpole physique, Chet never shies away from contact, appearing impressively strong. We have to compare Chet with Jabari Smith Jr., the 3rd pick in the same draft, who was once considered a strong contender for the top pick. Looking at them now, Jabari Smith Jr.'s physical tools, basketball IQ, and fundamentals don't measure up to Chet's. Even his ability to play through contact seems softer compared to Chet. He often grabs an offensive rebound only to immediately try an outside shot. It just goes to show that the scouting departments of the Magic and the Thunder really know their stuff. Now let's talk about Chet's defensive improvement. Actually, Chet's average of 1.93 blocks per game this postseason is a decrease from last season's to 0.50. However, as the saying goes, the greatest accomplishments often go unnoticed. This statistical dip is due to an increase in Chet's defensive pressure and dominance. As early as this regular season, his field goal percentage allowed within 0 to 6 feet of the basket was already number 1 in the league, and his block rate in that same range was 5th. With Wembanyama sidelined by injury, Chet is arguably the league's premier rim protector. Consequently, on many possessions, opposing perimeter players don't dare challenge Chet in the paint. Like the play mentioned earlier where Jaden McDaniels, assuming Jaden refers to him, got blocked, he genuinely thought Chet had been switched off him, but as he went up for the layup, Chet recovered to send it back. Even so, this postseason, Chet has maintained a 9.6% opponent field goal percentage within 0 to 6 feet and a 23.0% block rate in that zone. For comparison, the reigning DPOY Evan Mobley's numbers in these categories are 8.6% and 15.9%, respectively, both inferior to Chet's. If Chet's defense has been steadily improving, his offense has been a huge, pleasant surprise for the fans. I believe this progress is inseparable from how the Thunder's coaching staff has fine-tuned his role. A striking statistic: last postseason, Chet averaged 1.7 minutes of possession per game and 33.1 frontcourt touches. This season, those numbers have significantly dropped to 1.3 minutes and 20.1 touches. Looking at his offensive methods, this postseason, Chet's average spot-up attempts have increased from 3.2 to 4.3, and his cuts to the basket have risen from 1.9 to 2.4 per game. In short, Chet is increasingly thriving in an off-ball role, and a Chet who doesn't need the ball in his hands is an effective Chet. This is where he differs significantly from KD. Although prime KD had historically elite off-ball abilities, he was the Thunder's main star and shouldered significant on-ball responsibilities. The fact that Chet, as a new generation unicorn, is playing better by not trying to be the next KD is thought-provoking. There are multiple reasons for this difference. First, there are disparities in physical condition and technical skills. Although both Chet and KD are slender, athletic players, their physical gifts and foundational skills differ. KD is unique. His perimeter skills, like shooting and changing direction, are historically elite for his position or even regardless of position. He also possesses rare coordination and touch, allowing him to dominate in one-on-one situations from the perimeter. This ability is almost impossible to replicate and requires immense talent. Chet's advantages lie in his superior height and wingspan, with static measurements closer to a traditional big man. His rim-protecting instincts, help defense awareness, and rebounding ability are superior to many at his position. While his shooting and ball handling are good, they haven't yet reached KD's level. Therefore, strengthening his interior offense and defense better aligns with his natural advantages. Second is modern basketball's demand for stretch bigs. Today's NBA requires versatility from big men. They need to protect the rim and rebound, but also possess some floor spacing ability and a three-point threat. Chet's choice isn't to abandon perimeter skills, but to build from an interior foundation with perimeter skills as a complement. Moreover, his defensive value is immense. With his height and mobility, he can cover the paint, provide elite rim protection, and switch onto perimeter players. This defensive impact directly sets the team's floor and is often more tangibly valuable than just perimeter scoring. The third reason is team role and tactical fit. The Thunder already have ball handlers like SGA and Jalen Williams. Compared to perimeter firepower, an interior anchor is what they lack. Chet focusing on an inside game fills this team need and maximizes team chemistry. If he were forced to emulate KD's perimeter style, Chet might fall into inefficient isolation play. As an interior core, his pick-and-roll finishing, putbacks, and defensive deterrence directly improve the team's chances of winning. This clear functional role helps him quickly adapt to the NBA rhythm. Finally, this is also a consideration for injury prevention. KD had several foot injuries early in his career. We can't ignore the high load that a perimeter-oriented game places on ankles. If Chet were to handle the ball and drive excessively, it could increase his injury risk. Interior play, involving pick and rolls and cuts, is generally less taxing on the body. From a long-term development perspective, big men often mature earlier than perimeter players. If Chet can establish his influence through defense and rebounding, then gradually develop his perimeter skills, it would be a more stable growth path. In summary, Chet's decision to forego becoming the next KD is essentially a rational choice to play to his strengths and mitigate his weaknesses. He hasn't completely abandoned perimeter skills, but is basing his game on interior play, focusing on defense and team value, while gradually expanding his technical boundaries. This path allows him to quickly realize his talent and leaves ample room for future evolution. For the current Thunder team, Chet is undoubtedly a non-tradable asset, possibly even more valuable than Jalen Williams. Purely in terms of player archetypes, a secondary scorer or second option is relatively easier to find. However, a unicorn, a stretch 5 with outstanding physical tools, is someone you can count on one hand. Just imagine if a team like the Lakers or Warriors suddenly added a Chet to their roster, how much would their capabilities improve? Alright, finally, let's talk about the Thunder's championship prospects. The most significant aspect of the game for victory against the Timberwolves wasn't just that the Thunder gained an advantage, but that this game might have been the peak performance of SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet since they teamed up. It was the game where the three truly established themselves as a young trio. If this new Big Three label was just hype before, then starting from this game, more and more fans will believe these three young men can build their own dynasty. Comparing them horizontally this season, among the Final Four teams, the Thunder might not have the fewest weaknesses, but they likely have the longest long plank, referring to their elite team defense and potent individual offensive threats. If Jalen Williams can improve his offensive consistency, the Thunder's chances of winning the championship will only increase. And comparing them vertically to past Thunder peak teams, specifically the 2012 young squad that reached the finals, offensively, it might be hard to compare, but the 2025 Thunder's overall defense is clearly superior to the 2012 Thunder. In 2012, the Miami Heat's Big Three emerged from the East, and the young Thunder, after taking a 1-0 lead, lost the next four, falling short. For the 2025 Thunder, this year's opponent is clearly not as strong as that Heat team. So, is a Thunder championship a foregone conclusion? I think so. Do you have a different opinion?